Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and welcome back to the Fangoria Movie Challenge. Now, this is the segment I've been doing with my good buddy, Joe the Horror Man, where we're not only going to watch, but also review all 101 movies Fangoria thinks we should have seen. Today, we're going to be talking about a classic in some people's eyes, an overrated mess in other people's, and that is When a Stranger Calls. Now, I have reviewed this before, so I'm going to handle this kind of the same way I handled Christmas Evil. I'm going to put a link to the original review in the description box below. And I decided to use my DVD this time because last time I reviewed the Mill Creek Blu ray with the slipcover. So I had actually never watched my DVD copy of it, so I figured I would do that this time. Okay, When a Stranger Calls is a 1979 film which runs approximately 97 minutes, and it's written and directed by Fred Walton. This stars Carol Kane as Joe Johnson, Charles Durning as John Clifford. Unfortunately, he passed away on December 24th, 2012, at the age of 89. And Tony Berkeley as Kurt Duncan. He passed away on April 19th, 1980, at the age of 52. If you're interested in any of the other facts and figures, definitely check out my review for Mill Creek for When a Stranger Calls. But I wanted to talk about this film a little bit, kind of the way I did about Christmas Evil. This film peaks very early. You have 20 minutes of probably the most terrifying segment put to film. Because this was originally, from what I found out from Joe last night we were watching it, was originally a short film that they made longer because of the success of Halloween, which I thought was really interesting. Of course, everybody wanted slasher movies. This is a slasher movie, but I think this is a slasher movie with a different flavor. And I think it's very underappreciated, and I'm going to tell you why. This does something very different from a lot of other slasher movies. It focuses on, once you get out of that 20 minutes, that terrifying 20 minutes at the beginning, this focuses on the life of a person who got caught for the crime that they did, the killer. He was in an asylum for 6 years and then escaped. And he's trying to not only not get caught again, of course, but he's trying to have a normal life. And he's thwarted at every turn, which I think is very interesting. He's trying to relate to people. He's trying to find comfort in humanity. And in many ways, he's not cured, but I think if the things that happened to him didn't happen, we might have been watching a very different film. That's what I think is really interesting about this film. Of course, they explain that he had electric shock therapy, tons of treatment, pills, so on and so forth. Mental illness is, and the human brain is something we still know very little about. And I think that makes this movie interesting. Granted, you're going from the high of the original part of the film, and then it's basically you're telling a killer story and the cops that are looking for him because he escaped from an asylum. So, of course, it's going to come down to here. Now, it eventually does go back up at the end, and I think this is storytelling that is it's very underrated because everybody expects you to keep the intensity of the first 20 minutes, and you can't do that. If that would have been the end of the film, I'm sure this movie would have been as popular as, say, Halloween or Black Christmas or, you know, the other films that are revered, like Friday the 13th. But they didn't. They put it at the beginning. And I really think that took balls to do that because they had a story to tell. And I think the story is about humanity and the lack of humanity. Maybe there's something wrong with me, and there probably is. I'm not saying maybe, there probably is. But I found myself, and I was talking to Joe about this as well. I found myself feeling very sorry for the killer. Now, this is a guy who killed two kids in cold blood. And that's another thing about this movie that really floors me is that movies back then didn't go there. Now, granted, they didn't show it, but he killed both of those kids in the beginning of the film. That's pretty rough. I mean, they didn't do that kind of stuff back in the 80s. Kids were like kind of off limits for the most part. So I'm feeling sorry for this heinous individual who's a kid killer and terrorizes this young woman who's babysitting these two kids. But the way he's treated when all he wants is some human comfort is, it makes me feel sorry for him. I do. I really do. Up to a point. And then he starts getting creepy. And I'm like, all right, it's time for you to go. But, it is what it is. Now that I've rambled on enough, I've always wanted to talk about this film. I think this film is so underrated. And I think it is that way because it peaks very quickly. So, yeah. So I'm going to recommend When a Stranger Calls Back. I like this film better than the original, which is something that very seldom ever happens in movies, in my opinion. I think this is a better film. Um, I will say, though, Carol Kane's in this one, she plays traumatized very well. Even in this film, she's still traumatized by what happened to her. In this one, you have Charles Durning again. You also have Jill Schoelen, who's absolutely beautiful. And this one is a different type of story as well. But there are some things that are very neat that go on in this film. And I'm not going to say, if you have not seen this, because maybe you didn't like this, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't watch When a Stranger Calls Back. I actually find it to be a better movie than this one, in my opinion. I also love the remake. So does Joe. I almost went with the remake, but yeah, definitely check out this one. Check out the original. Give it another shot if you don't like it. I know it's a little slow in the middle, but it does tell an interesting story, in my opinion. Don't forget to check out Joe's review and what he recommends. And if you like what you see in here, hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, peace.